What's up, guys? Eric Codes here, and do another video a little bit later. I almost didn't get to do the walk today. It was a rainy day, but it seems like it cleared up. Just humid. So you guys know I've been doing the Ruby series, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So this won't be part of that playlist or anything like that. But instead, what I wanted to do is, believe it or not, I got into it. I usually don't. I'm pretty, if I do anything online, whether that's podcasting or YouTube channel or any of those things, like I usually am pretty much a pacifist. People are going to say what they're going to say and whatever, right? Like, it is what it is. You put your content up there knowing that people are going to hate on you and all that stuff. So long story short is, the other day I went on Reddit, which is troll paradise, and I know it. But I went on Reddit and I put up a post about coding boot camps. So if you guys are just joining this channel, you might not know that, I went to a coding boot camp. I started in September of 2022, and I graduated in July of 2023. So if you're not acquainted with my story, I guess the reason I want to tell this is because there were people that were jumping on this post. So the post was about kind of giving hope to a bootcamp grad, because I know that right now in software, it's hard to get a job, right? It's hard to get a job for people with 4 years degrees. It's hard to get a job for people that have, 3 to 5 years experience, right? It's not a cakewalk like it used to be. All right. And so I think what's happening is a lot of people are coming out of boot camps and they're is it disenfranchised? Is that the word? They just get out and they're like, I was told this and I'm getting nothing, right? So here's the thing. Yes, a full disclaimer is that boot camps say, 3 months and get $100,000 a year job, right? The thing is, they're not lying. So did that happen for me? No, it didn't. So disclaimer right up front, that did not happen, right? They're not lying. It is possible, under the right circumstances, if the wind is blowing the right way and you know the right person, right? Like, if all the stars align, you could go to a 3-month boot camp and then get a job that pays $100,000 a year or more. It's possible, right? It's also possible that the sun will burn out out of nowhere, it's also possible that, a massive earthquake will destroy the earth right now as we speak. Anything's possible, all right? So when these boot camps say this, I see no difference in them saying that than a college saying, well, if you go to get a 4-year degree from us, and a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you're going to make $100,000 a year or more. Tell that to the person who went to 4 years and became a social worker, who does work that's very, they mean really well, and it's good for society, and it's important for society, right? Protecting kids from bad parents, or kids from parents that are drug addicts, or helping drug addicts, right? That can turn their life around, right? That's important work, but they don't get paid well, teachers even, teachers don't get paid that well. Yeah, they have nice perks, good insurance, right? So there's some benefits and perks, but there's benefits and perks to all jobs, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, people that say, oh, they get a 4-year degree, you're telling people the same thing, right? Just because it was a boot camp that's not around anymore, right? Like, well, they're not around, they weren't legitimate. I don't know. I went to one. I'm a professional coder. Is it not legitimate? So I think I wanted to start by saying that. It's like, just because you're pissed off doesn't mean that you should tell everybody not to do this thing, right? Because I wholeheartedly 100% believe that if the right person out there wants to do software development, they're doing something now that they don't like. They're like me. They're not seeing their family, right? Like they're not, whatever it is, right? It can happen for you, all right? Again, I'm a perfect example of this, all right? Because when I got into software engineering, I had never written a single line of code, right? Never even getting hello world on the browser. Never happened until I was 33, 34. So it was in 2020. It was in the winter of 2021, November of 2021 was when I wrote my first line of code. So yeah, I was 34 years old. Never have I written a line of code. Right now, as we speak, I'm 37. 3 years. 3 years to change my life. Now, the Reddit post that I put up was saying, it was entitled For Bootcamp Grads, right? And so I kind of went and I told my backstory, right? I said, there's a lot of hate here. And the message is to go to that one person that was like me, right? And they wanted to change their life. And then they find all these Reddit threads about how they're getting scammed and how they shouldn't do it. And they should just give up, go back to school for 4 years or whatever advice that they give, right? But that's not the truth. It's not the truth, right? Because what happened for me was I was 34 years old. It was 17 years into my career, all right? I was a manager. Like I was way up. I was way up there. And I was in my life. This is how it was going to go. That was what I was going to do for the next 30 years. And when I had that revelation, so some things had changed, right? I had ended up, I worked my way into a deal where my wife would stay home with the kids and I took on all her hours. That's kind of how it worked, right? So anything that she was no longer bringing in, it was up to me to make up the difference, okay? And so to do that, I worked a 65-hour work week at one job. It's a 65-hour work week, okay? It was a salaried job, and I didn't make overtime, okay? That job paid me just enough to keep my lights on. That was it, okay? But it's okay. It was okay for a while, because you know why? And I did that from 2018 to 2022 before I decided I was like, okay, this is time. So like 4.5 years I did that, 65 hours a week, didn't complain, nose to the grindstone, worked hard, put food on the table, provided for the family. And when COVID hit, something started to change because the world changed, right? And working in hospitality, things ended up becoming different. We changed the way that the activities program ran. There was a real hard time getting people to work because there was a lot of, help from the government or from wherever for people who weren't working at that time. And so the hospitality industry is demanding, okay? There's a lot of hours. You're working when the guests that are there, when they're up. So for me, being on the entertainment side of it all, and the corporate side of it all, were long days, 9 a.m. to midnight, 1 a.m. too. When I got done with the karaoke shift, or when I got done with the DJ shift, or whatever it was, I worked it, exhausted, right? And I would probably still be doing it because I really did. I was passionate for it. I loved the place, my heart was there. But what ended up happening was, because of those outside external factors, the place began to change. And the other thing was, I felt like I wasn't getting the help and support that I needed to do my job. And so because of that, you build up animosity. Now, before I had even decided to leave, I had started teaching myself how to program. And the reason I did that was, I told you I was in the entertainment activity side of things. So what my job was to do was to create games, whether that's physical games, challenges, team events, trivias, whatever it is. And a lot of our trivias were made in Microsoft PowerPoint. And I made Wheel of Fortune. I made Jeopardy. I made all these things, but I knew that they could be better. At one point I made a game where like it called in high definition video and, MP3s, and like I had broken into the developer part of PowerPoint and canceled out some of the clickability, and it ultimately ended up that I wanted to build something with drag and drop. And in PowerPoint, it's really hard to get that to, right? It's a slide program. The click tells you go to the next program or next slide, right? So I actually was able to do it, but I wanted to make a game where it's kind of like Pictionary, but using emojis, right? So like if the person got a card, and the category was music, and it was the song American Pie, you might, and depending on what emojis were available, you might grab the American flag and a pizza slice, because there was no pie, right? You go, all right, pizza pie, pizza slice, okay. So the challenge in the game was trying to figure out what emojis to use to get your stuff across. But I wanted the guests to be able to go up to a touch screen and move the things for other people to guess. And to do that, I needed HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so I started working at it, and I made what I wanted to make. And the games are only getting better, right? And at this point, I think I had already been frustrated a little bit, but I got really frustrated in, I want to say April of 2022. April of 2022. Something happened that just morally and professionally and all these other things, I couldn't get over it. And so I snapped, and I was like, okay, then if that's how this is going to go forward, I can't do that for the next 30 years of my life. I just can't. And I knew that I already was doing programming, and I loved it, right? It was like a great little hobby. I was doing it in my spare time. It was any time I had at the office or at my job to use it, I was using it. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm good enough to do this, And so I started to deep dive into it, and I started really getting involved. So most of what I was doing was front end with JavaScript. And then, I took a couple Udemy courses for back end development, right over my head, And so I said, let's try some PHP, learn some PHP, set up a database. Like I was getting it to work. And then, I don't know if I want to say this, but there's no point in saying it, because it's just gonna bring up stuff that it's dead, it's buried in the past. But long story short is, a few things happened that made me even angrier. And when those things happened, I said, screw it, I'm done. Like, I told my wife, I still remember saying to her, I said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And just the weight that came off of my shoulders, was crazy. And she could see it. She could see it in me. She's like, honey, you got to do this. You have to change. And so it was that day. I remember I had already been researching boot camps, because it was a thought in my mind. I looked at UPenn's, Rutgers, and ultimately I ended up going with MIT. And the reason that I did, it sounds stupid and superficial, but the MIT name, right? Like, MIT sounds a little bit better than Rutgers, right? Like, not that, I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying it just to the untrained eye, Somebody said, hey, I went to MIT, or I'm certified through MIT, I feel like it turns heads a little bit more. So that's why I went with MIT. The other reason was that it was cheaper. It was, I don't know, maybe 2/3 the price of the other boot camps. And the other thing was, although it was longer, because it was a 9-month boot camp, so it wasn't like a 6-month, but I didn't have to have like a regimented, like, you have to go from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock, right? Every single day. And then you have like an 8-hour day on Saturday, right? I have to earn money for my family, right? I have to feed them. I can't do that. I can't just take off of work. You know, money, maybe for some people, but as a father of 3 kids and a wife and a mortgage, it wasn't gonna work, right? That was my only option, right? Was I gonna go to four years of school to do that? It's impossible. It was not gonna happen. You know, it's not in the cards for someone like myself. So what was I to do, right? Be miserable for 30 years, okay? Or go back to school for 4 years and put my wife back to work so that she doesn't see our kids, right? Or was it to say, you know what? Let's give it a try, right? Let's try it. Let's see what I can do. I will put in as much as I can. I'll put everything of myself into this boot camp and then try to get a job. So I started doing it. And the first part of it was pretty easy because I had already had about 10 months of experience, you know, with coding. So like basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I was past that, right? I didn't need to learn loops. I didn't need to learn, you know, any of those basic, you know, what the difference between types and all that other stuff, right? Like I didn't need to know that because I already knew that. But again, it was good because I already knew that I liked coding going into the boot camp. So I think that's important, right? You got to know that you like it. I never tell anyone to take a boot camp unless you've gone 6 months programming and you love it. If you hate programming after a month or, you know, after 6 months, you're never going to like it. All right. It's the truth. Okay. So don't worry about what the dollars and cents say because that's irrelevant right now. All right. So that first part, I already knew most of it. I had already had GitHub. I already knew all this stuff, right? But it was good to do that because I was also there able to assist other people in the program. They had a Slack set up so that all the people who were in the boot camp could kind of help each other. So like I was able to teach almost. And to be honest with you, the best way to learn stuff sometimes is actually to teach it. So that was good and healthy for me to do. Then we got into the React section, which was something I didn't know. It was at this point in time, I had aggressively put in a ton of applications. So I had started around April or May, like when I had gotten really mad. I kind of started sending things out as a self-taught dev, right? Wasn't really getting any snags, which again is why I was like, okay, if I take this boot camp, you know, there's a possibility that I'll end up getting a call, right? Well, after, I don't know, application 1015 in January of 2023, at the peak of big tech layoffs, and this was something else that they tried to call me out on my post. I said, hey, I got hired at the peak of big tech layoffs. And they were like, oh, it's not the same market as it was back then. You got in at a good time. No, I didn't. I got in the worst possible time. Facebook, everyone laying off 1,000 employees. Google it. Go ahead. Look at the peak. Look at January of 2023. There have never been more tech layoffs than then. All right. Check it out. That's when I got hired. Okay. The person that hired me he had already hired somebody else, but he was like, you know what? I like what I see. He kind of conversed back and forth with me. He's like, all right, come in for an interview, right? Came in, hired me on the spot, right? He was paying very much less than what I was already earning. And so he offered something. I said, hey man, like, here's what I make. I can't come down to there. Like, I just can't. I have a wife, I have kids, right? Like, so he countered and he said, hey, we'll do this. And then after 6 months, we'll go to this. And I agreed to it. Now, that after 6 months number, $12,000 less per year than I was making. 12 grand. So anybody out there is like, oh, you know, you get to tech, you make all this money. And no, I was making less money. Okay. Why did I take the job? Well, here's the other thing too. The job was not in HTML, CSS, or JavaScript at all. Not even PHP either. The job was in VBA development. VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, okay? That's what Excel, Access, Word, okay? The Microsoft programs are written in. So any software that we make is gonna be made in those programs. Dude, I didn't care. After 2,000 applications or however many I put in, and 1,015, I think I said, I don't know what the number is, but it was a lot. finally got someone interested in me, and I was like, this is my shot. This is my shot to prove that I can do this. Took the job. I knew I was making less money. It was gonna hurt financially. It was gonna hurt. And it hurt for years. We're still recovering from that initial hit. But I took it. The hours were 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, all holidays off, like all federal holidays off. What? You know, I had at my job 80 hours of PTO I wasn't allowed to use because I couldn't take off, because every time I needed to take off, be like, well, there's a group coming in and you're kind of in charge of that, so, you know, kind of stuck. You know, so to hear that I had guaranteed days off, take off whenever I wanted, as long as there was a heads up, like no weekends, no nights, again, 15, 16 hours to 9 to 5, you know, so yeah, I'll take the pay cut, because the most important thing is when I was working that 65-hour weeks, man, my kids, like, all I could do with them was lay on the couch. I was so tired. You know, although I got a lot of steps in and moved around a lot, I wasn't healthy. You know, I ran off caffeine all day, you know, which is kind of funny because here I am at the opposite end of that now, because I've been a developer for 3 years, and, you know, here we go. Like, I've gotten fat and, you know, out of shape, but hey, I'm trying, right? I'm working on it. But, you know, the most important thing was seeing my family and getting my foot in the door for the opportunity. Then we actually almost instantly got a PHP project on from there. And so that's how I really started diving into PHP. I was doing VBA and PHP, learning both languages. Finished, I got my bootcamp cert. And for the next 16 months, I stayed at that job. Again, did not like VBA programming, but I was learning. Whether I liked it or not, it was still programming, okay? Programming concepts are universal. They will transfer with you wherever you go. As frustrated as I was dealing with having to program in Microsoft stuff and being stuck in all these issues with like runtimes and all these other things, right? It was worth it because it was like a shock to the system to see how things actually worked, right? And so don't regret any of it. And plus, my boss was a great dude. I felt so bad about having to leave him, but it just wasn't right for me. So about 14 months in, it wasn't like, you know, I wasn't firing all cylinders. I wasn't doing what I loved yet. I wanted to be in the web. You know, I had started my own business to try to scratch that itch, which started making money, which is great. You know, I still do it today. And, you know, it's a big chunk of my income now, thank God. Because it's great. It's like, it's extra money, right? For extra things that I couldn't give my kids before. So, but I wasn't super happy. So I put out some feelers. I started applying, and this was in 2024. So this was or I put like my LinkedIn out there and just kind of saw what was out there, right? And I ended up finding something on Indeed. And the person was like, hey, you know, we're interested, you know, like, why did you actually put in for this? And I kind of said, hey, here's what I do. You know, I had sent them a link to an article that I wrote that got published, you know, my YouTube, my blog, my YouTube at the time, as it's no longer there, but my blog, everything that I do. And they were like, you know what, you're 2 hours away, but come in for an interview. We want to meet you. Great. Got there, sat down in the interview, talked to the guys, great dudes. And, you know, I think I answered questions maybe the way that they were hoping, because what they were looking for at the time was a junior developer. And I was kind of a little bit higher than the junior level developer. But, you know, they were like, why do you want this job? I was like, to be honest with you, more than anything, what I want to do is I want to be great at PHP development. I want to learn from somebody because I want to mentor, right? Like the other job, again, the guy that owned the other business, he was great, but he was busy. He was trying to build this business, right? And so things that he couldn't do because he didn't have time for, not that he couldn't do them skill-wise, he didn't have time for them, they kind of fell on my plate, right? And so I never really got peer programming. I never got any of that stuff, right? It was just like, hey, swim. And this, when I was in this video, I was like, hey, I'm happy that I'm not lead developer. I'm happy that I'm not the IT department and all these other things like I was at the other job, you know? I'm happy that I could sit here and truly absorb from him, from the lead programmer, and like really get great at this craft, you know? And again, we had talked about pay, and pay was much lower than what I was making, right? And so I told him, I was like, hey, listen guys, like I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. This is what I currently make, right? Not what I was making at the resort, what I was currently making, right? This is what I currently make, okay? If you guys can match that and you guys can let me work remote, you know, a couple days, we might be in business, right? And so later that day, I got an offer letter. And they're like, we'd love to have you as part of the team. You know, what we're gonna do is the first 6 weeks, you're gonna come into the office 4 days a week. So that's 2 hours there, 2 hours back, right? You come into the office 4 days a week. Then after the first 6 weeks, we'll go down to 3 days a week. And then maybe after 4 more weeks, we'll talk about doing 2. I was like, you know what? This is it, man. It's my shot. It's my shot to do web development, prove I can do this, to get better. 2 hours sucks, you know, it's a long journey, but we'll take it, right? And so I said really hard, you know, to talk to my old boss saying, hey, you know, I was just honest with him, and I was like, hey man, like I got a job offer and I'm gonna take it. It's doing PHP development, you know, it's more like what I want to do, you know. And I even said, hey, listen, I'll stay on with you, you know, I'll stay on to kind of like, if you need to hire back, if you need help, you just reach out to me, right? And I can do the work in between, you know, I'll do it at the rate that you think is fair. And then, you know, that way I can kind of help you make the transition, you know. Sucked, but hey, in life, right, sometimes you need to make those hard decisions, right? Great dude, like, and I'm forever thankful to him for taking a chance on me. But it's on to something new, something different, something I wanted to do. And so took that job, and I've been there ever since. My business has been growing, you know, I've gotten some really big clients, you know, really helping with money. So I remember when I took the job, you know, I told you it was 4 days in office. I did the first like 5 weeks, 4 days. And they were like, you can come in 2 days. And then, you know, another 2 weeks went by, they're like, it's 1 day a week. Because I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was ahead of schedule. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And they were happy with it, right? And they understood. They're like, hey, this guy can do his job the same as if he's in office, as if he's here. You know, we trust him. He's a good guy. We'll let him do it. And I've been there ever since, you know, and I just keep leveling up as I'm there, learning more, taking it all in. Again, building my business, taking what I learn and during the day, applying it at night for other companies and other, you know, not other companies, but for other, for my business, and for, you know, what I'm learning there is I don't know if I'm saying that right. What I'm learning there is transferring right over to my side business that I do on the side that has nothing to do with my work, you know, there. So again, I got hired for that job in June of 2024. So I put this post up much more succinctly than I just described it to you. I put this post up saying, you know, there's hope. It was hard. You know, one of the things that I was accused of was being disingenuous. Somebody was like, yeah, you can't tell the people this is what they can expect. I'm like, I didn't. I told my story, you know? And they're like, well, you know, yeah, you're disingenuous because, oh God, what was in their stupid thing? Because, you know, the market's not good and people are trying and you're giving them false hope and all. So I'm like, and you're cutting them down. You're killing their dreams. And he's like, you know, you got into the market at a good time. I'm like, I did not. January 2023. Look it up. Insane amount of big tech fires, right? They were slashing jobs across the industry. Nobody was hiring. Okay? So you're wrong. They're like, oh, well, you got the job because, you know, you took a job in, they say that I'm like I'm a niche coder, you know, VBA or whatever it is. It's like, I took the job in VBA. You're going to hate because I was willing to take a job that wasn't maybe what exactly that I learned. Who cares? It's programming, you know? Shut up. Don't get picky. You want a job? You get offered a job, you're going to say no because it's VBA development? Like, come on. Go, do the job well, do it to the best of your ability, and continue to look for what you want. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So that was one person. And another person jumped in, and they just kept going after, like, well, I'm a Facebook engineer, and, you know, I have all this years of experience, and blah, 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 blah. Like, yawn, dude, yawn. Like, and I was nice the whole time. I explained to them multiple times. I'm like, guys, this is like a motivational post telling people that, you know, basically saying, hey, I had a full-time job, 65 hours a week, a wife and 3 kids, a mortgage that I had to pay, no other income. I would get home after working a 16-hour shift, 2 a.m, and I would open up the laptop and do another hour of work for the boot camp to finish my job, to finish my work, you know? And I learned, you know? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I work at Facebook. It's like, shut up. Nobody cares that you worked at Facebook. You and thousands of other people have worked at Facebook, okay? And I even said to the guy, I'm like, listen, have you gone to a boot camp? Well, no, I never went to a boot camp. It's like, well, then shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, I'm an industry expert. No, you're not. If you say you're an industry expert, you're not an industry expert. If you need to inflate your ego to that point where you say, I'm an industry expert, dude, shut up. Best programmers out there doubt their abilities, all right? They go through imposter syndrome, they doubt. And the reason that that's a good thing for a developer is because they are always willing to learn and open up their eyes and think, okay? That's what makes good developers. And these people, like, this is why people say that the industry does, oh God, what's it called? Gatekeeping, right? All the time, the industry says, hey, there's gatekeeping here. It's like, this is why. Because you're telling people they can't do it. You're telling people that they're stupid. You're telling people that they wasted their money. You're telling people that they sucked. How about this? Support people. Say, you know what? Hey, market is tough. Here's what I did to get a damn job, okay? Because they're out there. Yeah, you might not work for Facebook. Yeah, you might not work for Spotify or one of these huge tech companies. But guess what? Most industry in the United States are small businesses. Small businesses. You might work for a bank. You might work for a law firm. You might work for, I mean, you know, like a grocery store chain. I don't know. All these places need websites. They all need web development, okay? There are jobs out there, okay? Just because it's not Facebook or Netflix doesn't mean it's not worthy. Tell you what, the guy that I work for first was like, flew around the world for VBA development. The dude has thousands of followers, blogs all the time. He's a Microsoft MVP. He's invited all these things, right? And he works for VBA development. All right, so don't start with this crap. You're not gonna get a job. You know, I looked up that guy who was giving me a hard time and everybody else a hard time in that thread. Dude specializes in getting people on an average of $120,000 plus a year in their current job. You only have to pay, I think it was like $2,600 a month for his services. And if you can't afford that, guess what he does? He's gonna take a part of your salary once you get hired. Oh, just so you know, that guy too, nice little disclaimer at the bottom of like the things that he's claiming that says, you know, these results may not be typical. Okay, mister, I hate on boot camps because they lie to people. How about you? All right. And I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm playing devil's advocate for you, bro. Okay. I'm saying this is what is the problem. This is why I'm saying, like, a boot camp can't sit there and be like, we're going to guarantee you get hired, right? Some of them do. And if they don't, they give you your money back, right? That's part of it. And if they don't, and they guarantee that, and you have proof of it, you can sue their asses and get your money back, okay? There's plenty of stuff that are doing that right now. do your diligence on picking a boot camp. Make sure you pick one that's credible. Again, I won't know if that's through MIT, right? It's not, I mean, it ended up not being MIT that was doing the program, like it was like emeritus or something like that, but it doesn't matter. It's backed by MIT. It's not like it's going to go under, like the program's going to go under like one of these random ones, okay? Again, those are the reasons that I picked the one I did. There was a long list and I went through them already. But the thing is, man, like you can't, don't crap on people's dreams, right? Just because it's hard, okay? Just because something's hard doesn't mean that it's not possible, okay? There's only so many people in the world that can make the Olympics team in, I don't know, bobsledding, right? There's only so many bobsledders out there, but guess what? If you dedicate your life to bobsledding and you continue to work at it and you do everything in your power to become a professional bobsledder, maybe you'll make the Olympic team. Maybe you won't make the Olympic team. Maybe you'll make some sort of show that travels around and does bobsledding. I don't know, right? Or maybe you'll teach bobsledding. I don't know. But opportunities will come your way, okay? And if you want to learn programming fast and be exposed to a lot of stuff, you can take a boot camp. You can do it. I'm not telling you you're going to be a good programmer. That's a lie. That'd be a lie for me to say that. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. Okay? Again, you could be like me and dedicate yourself to it, have a family depending on you, and all these other important reasons, right? Or you could be like the other people that would reach out to me and be like, hey, my project isn't working. Can you share your code with me? It's like, is that going to do you any well, right? And I would say, hey, here's what you need to do. Look at this, look at this, look at this. I think one of the things was like, I remember they were having a problem with their project because the port. So when you're running like a React application, right? You have to have the front end running on one port and the back end running on another port. And this person was like, oh, it's not working because they had their back end running, but the front end wasn't running. It's like, okay. And I told them this and I said, hey, you see this? This is the problem. They're like, well, can you just share your code with me? It's like, you're not going to learn. So I think that's the biggest drawback in the boot camps is it's not as accountable as a 4-year degree. That is 100% true. Okay. But that doesn't mean that it's any less valuable. Okay. Doesn't, because if you can prove you can do the job, you will get opportunities. If you dedicate yourself, you will get opportunities. I promise you. Okay. People that don't get opportunities are the people that give up. People that give up and blame everybody but themselves. Okay. It's the market. It's this, it's that. No, screw that. No, it's your mindset. It's your ability, maybe. Like, not trying to call you out, but like, and I am far from the best programmer in the world, but I make it a point every night, every day to do my job as good as I can and to read documentation and to work and to fumble through things. I told you, you've seen I've been doing the Ruby thing, right? I can watch a tutorial and follow it. I don't. I spent 2 hours to find out that I had to run bin/dev instead of Rails serve to get my CSS to compile. Like, yes, I could go and I could just follow blindly a tutorial and have a development set up for me myself, but I never learned how, like, why it works. So again, you get what you put in, and you know, there's no guarantees, and the boot camps are fine. They are fine for the people who are the right type of people. And some people aren't the right type of people, and that's okay. Some people need a 4-year degree where they can go and, you know, screw off for 4 years, take a vacation, you know. Again, not saying that all people do that, but I'm saying the college party life, living 4 years, putting yourself in a ton of debt for and to come into a market that's the same as if you were a boot camp grad. You know, what matters is the substance. What matters is what you can prove, what you can show, you know, your work ethic and your determination. Okay. And don't sit there and tell me that, oh, I'm determined because, you know, I got things, but there was no jobs in the field. It's like, you didn't try. Okay. What did you do? You put a couple applications out there, you know? Did you constantly try to change your application for the job that you were applying for? Did you write a letter and change that letter specifically for each individual person that or each individual job that you applied for? Did you research the company and find out what their values were and what they like and what's important to them? So when you send in your resume with a letter. You can say, hey, this is important to me. That's important to me. All those different things, right? Did you do that? No? Okay. Why not try it? Try it. Try blogging. Hell, everyone's got a podcast. Go podcast. Do what I'm doing right now. Fire up your phone, go on a walk every day and talk. Okay? Because that shows that you're passionate about what you do. That shows that you care about it. That shows that you want to do it and that you love it. Because people want passion. People want dedication. They want people who are motivated. They don't want to pay you just because you can supposedly deliver a service to them or something that can help them. They want you to be part of the team. They want you to be part of their dreams. Because if you join a big company or a small company even, it's even more important, right? I mean, I'll give you a quick example. Like, let's say, I don't know, you're trying to get a job for like some sort of organization of like a Christian organization, right? But you're an atheist. Those two things don't line up. That's not a good job for you. It's not a good place for you to work, right? Whether you agree or disagree, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is what's important to them, and a conviction to them is the polar opposite of what's important to you, and it's a conviction for you. The two things can't work. And even if they were to hire you and you were to lie your way through it, it's going to come through eventually. Okay? Just like if you lie on your resume, right? That one thing, they were like, oh, so you have experience with C#? And you're like, oh, yeah. Can you think of the jobs mostly in something else? And you get there, and it's all C#. Oh boy, bad fit, right? You know, what the expectation was that you'd be able to do their ASP.NET site, and you've never even built a program, even used Visual Studio Code or VS Code, not Visual Studio Code, VS Code. Not a good fit. So my point is, if you want to go and go to a boot camp, the right people who are willing to put in the work, you can make it, okay? And don't let people tell you otherwise, okay? You need to work at it, okay? Listen, I know this might sound like tough love here, but people that are pissing and crying that they can't find a job, yeah, it's not an easy market, and I'm lucky that I have a job, and I'm happy, but I also worked hard to get the job that I got, okay? I'm also continuing to learn, to secure if the job ever fell through. Which it doesn't look, it looks really good, but if it ever fell through and they're like, hey, we got to let you go, I have a business that's been growing that I could put all my effort into doing that if I wanted to, right? Or I'm learning new programming languages, and that's going to help me find a job because I'll be more marketable because I can work PHP, I can do Ruby on Rails, I could do JavaScript, you know, I can do all those things, I can do WordPress, right? Like, make yourself hireable, make yourself valuable, and have a good attitude, because that's going to serve you well in your job search. Okay, regardless of whether you went to a 4-year college, which is great. If you were able to do that, that's awesome, and you were young enough to do it, that's great. For people like me who were in the situation I was in, that's not going to work. And yes, you are gatekeeping if you tell those people that they can't do it. You're gatekeeping. All right. So to all those guys who sit there behind a keyboard, who maybe had it easier than some other people, I'm here to defend those other people and tell you to stop crapping on them. Let them dream. Let them work hard. Because if you do, they're going to find work, they're going to find a job, and they will be okay. And the people like yourselves who sit there all pissy and moany are going to be the first ones when major layoffs happen to go. All right? That's what's going to happen. So, that was a little fiery, a little passionate, but I felt like I was holding that all in, and I was as nice as I could be on Reddit. But man, context matters. Context matters. A 150 character post of saying boot camps suck or whatever it is that you have to say does not encapsulate all that it is. So that's my message. Hope, that was helpful for the person that needs it out there, because I believe in you. I believe you can do it. If I can do it, nothing makes me special, okay? If I can do it, you can do it, okay? Keep with it, keep learning, keep programming, and you're gonna find a job. All right, this is Eric Codes. See you guys.